Welcome back everyone, Staring from Staring Gaming here. Today we're doing part 2 of the Heart of Fear. After we took out the big old bug guy here, Gowon, the next boss is literally right up this ramp, and that is the Wind Lord. Now during this fight, this boss actually has ads with him that if you destroy
Your defiance of the Empress ends here!
If you destroy each group, so if you take out these 3 amber tappers, the boss will get a small debuff on him if I remember correctly. Now, you can actually stun 4 of these mobs by picking up the weapons off this rack. Now, as you can see, they actually share HP with their own group. So if you were to just focus fire 1, you would kill all 3. As for their ability, the Blade Master just does a single strike on a single player and attacks in unison. So hopefully the tank's the one who has them. The Mender, of course, is the healer, which will mend a group of swarm for 35% of the health. They also can get a buff known as Quickening, increasing all damage done and melee speeds. As for the Amber Tapper, they'll imprison a random player, stunning them until they're free. Now, you can smash the Amber Prison to free them. Now, the player will have residue on them, which prevents them from being stunned by an Amber Prison for about 2 minutes. They also have Corrosive Resin, which they'll cover a player in 5 stacks, inflicting nature damage every second. If you move around while this is on you, you'll remove it, but you also create a pool of resin, which does nature damage to all players within the pool. Now for the Wind Lord, his abilities are known as Whirling Blade, which is a blade storm. So if you're in the path of the blade, get out of it. But he also does a return path as well, so be aware of what's going on. Rain of Blades is he rains blades down on all players, inflicting physical damage every half second for 6. Wind Bomb, when he hits 75% health, he'll hurl a wind bomb at random players. When it lands, it'll inflict nature damage to all players within a distance. After 3 seconds, it rearms itself to explode for more nature damage to all players within a certain distance, if any player comes in contact with it within a distance. The thing is, an active wind bomb will remain active during the raid, so you'll have to be aware of where they're placed. Now, Watchful Eye, the Wind Lord here, watches over Swarm, dispelling all forms of crowd control for every warrior if he senses that players are incapacitating more than 4 of these ads. Now, one of the groups fall, he becomes more watchful, and now supports all forms of crowd control from every warrior if he senses more than 2. Now, when the second Lord falls, he basically makes them more immune to all crowd control for the last group. Now, Heroic, as you can see, he does not become watchful in Heroic, but if you do more than 3 of them on crowd control, he'll immediately dispel it all. Now, also on Heroic, he has an ability known as Reinforcements. So when a group of the Swarm here falls, he'll call in Reinforcements 45 seconds after the group falls. Also on Heroic is Recklessness. When he sees a group of his warriors fall, he becomes reckless for 30 seconds. It boosts his damage by 50, but his damage taken is increased by 600. So that's when everyone needs to unload on him.
All of Pandaria will die for the Empress.
As he hears Recklessness,
The
he's taking
skies
more
belong
damage.
to the Empress. I have failed you.
Now the achievement that you saw less than 3 is you defeat him without crowd controlling more than 2 of his swarm at once. And this can be done on normal heroic difficulty, of course. And of course, we don't get any Death Nut gear. Now the next boss we're actually coming up to is the Amber Shaper. Amber Shaper. Sorry for that. Now he has 3 stages. Stage 1 is basically you just focus firing him. He'll do Amber Scalpel, which carves the ground with a beam of amber energy. You can dodge this easily. Now, these also summon up Living Ambers, which do damage, but inflict nature damage to all enemies within distance and healing any other. So if you have a bunch of these together and kill one, you're ending up healing the rest of them for 4% of their maximum life. Now, in Heroic, after you kill one, it reconstitutes or it comes back after 30 seconds. Now, Burning Ambers, after you kill one, it dissolves in a pool, leaving behind a fire pool that does damage to all players if you stand in it. Now, parasitic growth is something healers need to be aware about. It'll cause amber to grow within the body of a random target, inflicting nature damage every 2 seconds. This will absorb healing done to that target, increasing the damage it inflicts to the host, directing any portion of healing. After 30 seconds, the parasite will dissipate without a trace. Basically, it goes away.
I found a few of my experiments. Step closer, and you may witness the full glory of my work here.
So basically with this, if you're healing someone that has this, you heal them too much, they will die. Now, Reshape Life, it'll transform a player into a mutated construct. During this time, you'll have a willpower bar down here. Now, if that runs out, you die. But during this time, you have access to certain abilities, known as Amber Explosion, which inflicts nature damage to all players, which is something you can't really control. You have to make sure you interrupt that yourself. Now, the Struck does damage to the hostile target in interrupting spell casting, including any other by constructs, or the Amber Monstrosity, which is later in another phase. It also destabilizes the target for damage taken by 10% for 15, and it does stack. Now, Break Free is what you need to do. Once the physical form of the enemy has been struck 20%, somehow the player can get out with a Great Surge of Will. So basically, your team's going to be DPSing you, trying to get down to 20% so you can get broken free. Now, the transfer player consumes the pool of the Burning Amber left behind. By defeated Living Amber, this will restore willpower and bolster its mutated form of Fortry, which means it will be increasing the health that they have to knock off while they try to DPS you down to free you. Now, on Heroic, if you use Consume Armor on the 3rd stage, you actually restore 50% of your willpower. Now, Struggle for Control, you can spend 8 willpower to force the mutated form to stop all actions for half a second. It also increases the damage it will take by 100 for 5. So basically, when it's about to cast Amber Explosion, Struggle for Control is when you need to use to stop it from casting. Smash, this is just a simple melee attack that does physical damage. Now, if the boss deals melee damage to a player who's transformed into a construct, he'll end up draining 40 willpower from them. Now, on to stage 2, his Gritty Creation. This is where the Amber Monstrosity comes in, just like same abilities, except it has Fling, which will grab the current target and hurl them at a distance, doing damage and stunning them. Now, while this monstrosity is alive, Amber Shaker here will not be taking any damage because his damage reduction is 99%. Now, once you kill it, you'll be able to fight him once again. This time, he'll have Concentrated Mutation, which will draw in amber energy into his body, increasing his damage and attack speed by 50%. Now, he'll be siphoning. This will cause agitation for the pools of amber around this room, causing them to immediately shoot out bits of amber at high velocity. Each burst will do nature damage to any player it hits. And if it happens to hit a mutated player, it will heal them for 20% of their health. So if you're mutated, you do not want to get hit by this, because you'll make it even harder on your group trying to save you. Now, the Amber Gobble, which is a deadly and on-heroic abilities, it'll cost 2 spears of destructive amber to form from the pools of the edge of the room. Each will fixate on a random player. If it comes in contact with that target, it explodes, doing massive nature damage to all players. If the Gobbles actually touch one another, they will actually neutralize one another and disappear. So if you're on heroic back then, you need to clear out this whole room just because of that one specific ability. Well, let's get into the fight.
I'm out of range.
You must be powerful to have come this far. Yes, you must think yourselves mighty. What's your step?
Here's Amber Monstrosity right here. And there's his little amber laser.
What have you done? No, this will not be how my work ends.
Pool's left behind the amber that dies. And then he runs to the center during phase 3 to summon up this draw power, and now he gets this boost.
Forgive me, Empress.
Just want to check. Well, apparently we got all the loot. Now, I'm gonna be honest. Back then, I used to want to farm this, all the colors of them. I was always after them. I always kind of enjoyed the Pandarian weapons because they had a celestial, you could say, type of look. But we're actually on our way.
Seal the gates, bar the exits, destroy these intruders.
And see, we're here at the last boss, known as the Empress, the Grand Empress, basically the leader of the Mantid. Now, to actually get this fight initiated, you have to kill these 3 groups here. So we'll get them out of the way, and then I'll explain this boss.
I need to get closer.
Now, you can see this causes her to come out. Just have to fight her to initiate the conflict. Now, let's see. She has 3 stages, as you can see. Stage 1, a perilous battle. Her sonorous field. It creates a field around her that causes nearby magic effects to run out. Let's see. You cast immeasurable effects within this. It also depletes it. Sonic Discharge. She does physical damage to every player. Now, on heroic, she has corrupted field here. The Shaw of Fear corrupts this field, inflicting shadow damage to a random player until it's discharged. So basically, you need people in the field here doing their magical effects to deplete it, especially on heroic. Now, the eyes of our Empress are something tanks need to be aware of. Now, she'll gaze into the eyes of the current target, inflicting the target with Eyes of the Empress. Now, if it hits 5 times, it ends up charming them, meaning they get mind controlled, and turns them into a servant of the Empress for the maximum. They hit 5 stacks. Now, as they get transformed, they inflict 200 more damage, gets 200 more healing, and has 300% increased health, and becomes immune to all CC and snares. So tanks need to switch off, I would say, at 3. No more than 4. 3 is definitely the one you want to switch out of, but if you go to 4, you need to switch immediately. I used to tank this boss. I know what I'm talking about. Now, Red Screech, she'll let loose a Screech at 2 random players, inflicting physical damage to each player and any players within distance of it. Now, at 25 player raids, she lets it out at 5 players. Cry of Terror causes terror on a random player, inflicting shadow damage to them every 2 seconds. Now, stage 2, she retreats into, I guess you could call that a cocoon or a chrysalis, maybe? Actually, it's called a chrysalis. All right. Now, during this phase, as you see, there's ads on the side here. These are the ads you're going to be fighting during phase 2. Now, they're the Royal Guard, which does 30% more damage for every other member within distance. So you need to pick which ones you want to take out ASAP. I would focus on the Reaver because of the poison abilities it has. It has Poison Bomb, which throws poison bombs at a random player, doing nature damage and damage over time to random every 2 seconds to a random enemy. You also can inflict nature damage to a player within a 301-yard cone in front of it. And their poison-drenched armor. The poison-drenched blades of the Reaper through every port of the current target, causing them to erupt with the toxic substance. The fumes of this cause nearby players to take additional nature damage. So like I said, I always would focus on the Reaver because of his nasty damage abilities. Now the Windblade here, he just fixates on a random player. So you can actually spread these suckers out to negate their Band of Valor, reducing the damage it'll deal. Now this batch, it'll shoot blades at a random player doing physical damage, which can be interrupted, so pay attention. Sonic Blade, he'll slash at the current target, doing 150% weapon damage and interrupting a spell cast. And Sticky Resin, he'll coat the ground with his resin, which clings to a player if you pass through it, slowing their movement speed and inflicting nature damage every second. Now, if it comes in contact with another resin, it will slide off the player back onto the ground. If you amass enough of this resin into one area, you can form an amber trap. Now, you can encase them with this ability, and it deals 5% of their health every 2 seconds. So you have to be aware, this can be used against you, or you can use it for you against them. Now, at 30% remaining of her health, the Shek'zeer breaks from the Empress's chrysalis to imbue her with profound corruption. Basically, just powers her up even worse. Again, she'll still have Eyes of the Empress, so tanks need to be aware of what's going on with that. Now, Shaw Energy, she'll emit this at 2 random players, doing some decent shadow damage. Now, a 25 player, she does to 5 people. Calamity, she does shadow damage equal to the player's health by 27% of their current health state. Consume Terror has a magical effect, which unleashes in a 701-yard cone in front of her, inflicting massive shadow damage and fearing players for 8 seconds. So the only people that should be in front of her are honestly the tanks. People should be on the sides or behind her during this fight. Amassing Darkness is when she sends out waves of shadows at a random player, inflicting shadow damage. The effect here also hits additional enemies every 2 seconds until it's eventually hit all enemy players. So this is going to end up hitting everyone. You just got to be aware. Now, Visions of Demise, she inflicts this on 5 random players to show them a visit of their own demise. It reveals itself to a player after 4 seconds, causing them to suffer in fear and inflicting shadow damage every second, and to all players within a certain distance for 20 seconds. Now, Heroic, Heart of Fear, is another ability you have to be aware of. She unleashes a swirling heart of dark energy, which targets a random player and inflicts shadow damage in their directions. Now, if a player stands between the heart of the targeted player, they actually take this damage instead. So to be honest, if I remember this right, when I wasn't the one tanking her, I was the one standing in the middle of the Heart of Fear to save the player from getting killed. So we're going to get into this fight and take her down.
Death to all who dare challenge my empire!
Try to go through all the phases here.
No more excuses, Empress. Eliminate these cretins, or I will kill you myself.
I have failed.
Well, I didn't get into phase 2, but you saw phase 3 is when he shows up, destroys the chrysalis, and he imbues her with power. But there's my goal. But this has been Asterion from Asterion Gaming. Asking to please hit that like and subscribe button. Also, go check out my Twitch channel. Until then, guys, I will see you later.